I belong to the category of people who enjoy rewatching content on YouTube, even from 15 years ago. There's something special in those videos. No camera mounts, no fancy equipment. People speak very sincerely and soulfully about the things that truly concern them, that truly interest them. It even feels like you're sitting and talking with your best friend in the kitchen. Today I want to talk with you in exactly that way. And the topic of this video is 3 models of behavior when meeting a woman and building relationships. If you're a new viewer, trust me, your life will be divided into before and after this video. If during my story you start having objections, that means I'm hitting the target. That means everything is going well. Look, let's get straight to the point. Model number 1. The most common one, known to everyone. Everyone has tried it at least once. Woman and relationships through the path of courtship. Nowadays, any psychology article will tell you that you should never devalue yourself, never be pushy. The less we love a woman, the more she likes us. Maintaining balance of significance, and so on. Of course, we all know stories where a man, through long persistent courtship, eventually won the woman. In real life, I personally know at least 3, maybe even 4 cases where a guy for 7 years gave gifts, tried, sometimes wrote, congratulated her, was there for her, was open, sometimes let her wipe her nose on him, and in the end the woman married him. And then the question arises, how is this even possible? I mean, it really sometimes works. I'll say more. Going forward, this will work more and more often. I'll explain why a bit later. But first, about the downsides. Here I will keep 2 columns, plus and minus. Minus, what is it? The fact is that now a huge number of people, both men and women, have internal contradictions, internal conflicts that don't allow them to find the kind of relationship they actually want. In other words, there is no such person, no such partner with whom this idea would be eternal. Let me give you an example. Suppose a woman on the one hand wants bright courtship, wants attention, care, affection, and she finds a man who seemingly provides all of that. But with him, there are no emotions of need, no butterflies. And here there are only 2 options. Either she meets and falls in love with someone who is unavailable, who doesn't court her, who perhaps she doesn't even consider romantically at first. And then the classic begins. You give me too little attention. You don't do this or that. Life goes on. He eventually breaks up with her. Or she finds a man who seems ready to do anything for her. Well, yes, he's good, but I just don't feel it, and she leaves him herself. This is one of the brightest examples of internal conflict. And eventually, starting roughly from 18 years old, or even earlier, and up to 27 to 30, it's a chain of relationship breakup, relationship breakup, relationship breakup. Every breakup causes damage and pain to the person. But specifically for her, circumstances and life keep telling her, think about it. Your worldview is incorrect. You're looking at things the wrong way. But very often the person doesn't want to notice it. Gradually, this question starts bothering her more and more. Then her friends start getting married, parents say. It's about time already. We want grandchildren. She's getting older. She also perfectly understands that her level of attractiveness is only decreasing. And it is precisely in these circumstances, if there exists a man who has been courting her for a long time, doing it reliably and safely, she really agrees to be with him. This is exactly the scenario behind very many stories that I know. During those 7 years the woman was saying, I will never be with him. I don't consider him at all. I don't like him at all. And then practically overnight, click, she switches and she starts being with him. If we talk about what this can lead to and what downsides exist for the man, I'm not denying that it can work. But there are downsides. Downside number 1. These are not the most profitable investments. We have to understand that all these efforts a man spends on a woman don't come out of thin air. He sacrifices time that he could have spent on self-development, work, increasing competence, on his mission, on making money, even on simple everyday pleasures. And he sacrifices all of this for the woman. Also, he dooms himself to a certain degree to constant background anxiety and worry. Next point, the value of such a woman for him remains high. The biggest misconception I've encountered when talking with such men during consultations, I tell the man, you thought, be honest, you thought that when she finally says yes and marries you, then the relationship will be on your terms? That is, you drew yourself a comic. Suddenly you sit on the throne. She turns into a submissive wife, wonderful mother, and they lived happily ever after. You just had to get her consent, and that's it. You had that feeling, right? As if you conquered a mountain. And I have to tell you, it won't happen. The format she bid on, what attracted her, and why she chose you on these terms. In general, your relationship will continue roughly in the same spirit. And one more huge downside, you lose your own identity. You simply dissolve into the other person, into her needs, her desires, her vision of reality, her interests. And in fact, according to this logic, you have to be ready for the rest of your life to just be convenient and agree with everything. Any sharp issue where she is clearly against something, you will be forced to agree. Otherwise, you'll hear something like, "Listen, I'm not holding you. Then why did you propose to me in the first place?" It's a deal that is far from the most advantageous for you. But sometimes after such a long period of courtship, a person becomes so strongly attached that he doesn't even have personal desires left. He experiences real euphoria and joy from any time spent with her. If she says, "Let's learn to knit together," he happily, "Let's do it." And he's not lying, he really wants it. This is quite a strong addiction. What other downside is there? Of course, it already depends on the woman's decency, but she can still be attracted to other men. Maybe not right away, maybe in a year, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that instinctive desire for butterflies, to fall in love, it can happen to her. Whether she acts on it or not depends on many other circumstances. In my opinion, this scheme somehow worked in the times when there was a certain code, how a wife should behave. Or if we talk about modernity, if the woman is deeply religious, for example, that is, she has to correspond to certain principles, and when she transforms from a girl into a wife, she changes completely. Then it can somehow work. But this is an exception. It happens extremely rarely. Very rarely. That's why, I repeat, all the relationship will be danced to her tune. In the best case, she won't be a tyrant. In the worst case, she will be. And even if you live together for some time, she can still leave. She fails again for the same reasons. And she can come back to you again with the words, "I realized I was stupid. I love you." Many people live their whole life like this. Moreover, I want to emphasize, we're not talking about some immature boys. I know quite a few quite respectable, in all other respects successful men who live like this. It's just that the woman is more attractive, more high status, and everything develops according to this scheme. All your achievements in life will ultimately also be dedicated to this person, with her in mind. What's the plus? I thought about it for a long time. There should be some positives. I can highlight 2 implicit ones. Plus number 1, you don't have to readjust. Overall, you live this life not in the format of romanticized love, but on emotional swings. Sometimes you're incredibly happy, and it gives you strength. Sometimes it upsets you. But you're even able to use these emotions for something. There really will be a lot of emotions. More often negative ones. More often the feeling of anticipation. You don't have to specially readjust. The person adapts to this format and lives. That's probably it. Honestly, I don't really find any other pluses. We should also remember that almost always at the core of such stories lies infatuation. The man in this situation believes that she is unique. For him, she is unique by 101%. There is no one else like her. But this is made up. He created this reality himself. Another woman could have been in her place, and he would have experienced almost the same emotions. Almost always this attachment is for life. If a man lives in this mode for at least 3 to 4 years, he will no longer be able to become attached to anyone else with the same degree of value. Model number 2. This seems like a reasonable balance, golden mean, as many people think. You can court, give gifts, show a lot of attention, yield somewhere, but at the same time you carefully watch that the woman also attributes value to your actions, so there is no feeling that you just do everything for nothing. Sounds logical and fair, but there is one very fat, systemic downside that almost completely destroys this whole construction. The main downside of the second model. You give the woman a drug of strong emotions at the beginning. A classic example from my life. I had a dog that I loved very much. At one point I went and bought the most expensive canned food. For me back, then it was serious money. She ate it. She loved it very much. When the canned food ran out, she almost stopped eating regular food. She staged real strikes. The same thing happens with moderate, or even quite generous, courtship. At the beginning you give the woman a huge amount of impressions, comfort, emotions, possibly gifts. Even if she says thank you and seems to appreciate it, you are setting a very high baseline level of comfort plus emotions. Then, when the candy bouquet period logically ends, and it always ends, normal life begins. Everyday routine, living together, ordinary weekdays. And that's when the man is genuinely surprised. Where did these complaints suddenly come from? Why, I want to go there. I don't want to go here. Why is there almost no mood towards you anymore? Why is there almost no desire anymore? Everything is very simple to explain. You yourself laid the foundation of a very high level of emotions and comfort, and then this level was abruptly canceled or greatly reduced. For her, this is no longer normal. This is already too little. At the same time, a very important point. When you invest a lot in the beginning, for you her value grows, accumulation effect of investments. And for her your value at that moment almost doesn't grow. She is simply comfortable, good, pleasant. She is grateful. But this is not the same as being in love and needing you as a man. That's why very often after 2, 4, 5 years a crisis arises. Something's wrong. I don't feel it. I'm tired. I want emotions. Second important point. Especially if the courtship was mainly about beauty, almost always men go for long courtships with those women whom they consider very beautiful. In more than 5,000 consultations, I have never once heard a man say, I didn't choose her by looks at all, just a good person. That's why I courted her for 7 years. The mechanism is simple. Your susceptibility to female beauty is very limited in time. After a year, 2, 3, the same woman whom you considered 10 out of 10 is already perceived as ordinary. The desire drops sharply. You can already calmly look at other women. And what remains? Social status remains. Look what a beautiful girlfriend/wife I have. The man to a certain extent pays with time, money, attention, nerves, so that other men look and think, well done, I wish I could do that too. That's why I also consider the second model largely self-betrayal under the guise of proper balance. We already went through the historical digression in the first part. Courtship in the modern romantic sense is a rather new and culturally specific phenomenon, not the natural order of things. Model number 3, the rarest, the most difficult to master and at the same time, the only one that in the long term gives truly healthy, stable, and mutually desired relationships. Brief essence of the third model, the woman herself needs you. She herself is drawn to you. She herself wants to build a relationship. She herself takes the initiative. At the same time, you are neither a cold bastard nor a henpecked husband, but simply a man who does not compensate for his low attractiveness with gifts, attention, and courtship. Main signs of the third model. The woman initiates contact more often than you. She worries if you don't reply for a long time. She herself comes up with reasons to meet. She tries to please you. She is more afraid of losing you than you are of losing her. Her investment in the relationship is comparable to or even greater than yours. Why can't most men get there? Because they try to pretend to be the third model instead of truly becoming it. It's like a bodybuilder who presses 140 kilograms in the gym, but during training tries to pretend to be a beginner and presses 60 kilograms. Everyone sees the fakeness. Or vice versa. A beginner who watched 10 videos and on the first training tries to press 100 kilograms. Also a failure. The third model is not a technique. It is a state. It is when inside you already have a deep confidence that you are valuable enough for a woman by yourself, without the need to buy her attention. How to approach the third model. Practical steps. Completely give up courtship as the main tool of attraction, especially at the beginning. Stop being afraid of losing a particular woman. This is the most difficult part. Learn to communicate calmly and get acquainted with women whom you don't particularly want to court, with those with whom it's easy and without tension. Accumulate a large amount of positive experience of communication precisely in this relaxed state. Gradually, the circle of women who show interest themselves will start to grow. After 1, 2, 3 years of practice, you suddenly realize that almost all new women who appear in your life immediately start behaving according to the third model. Final summary of the 3 models. Model 1, long courtship, works, but it costs a man very dearly: time, development, identity, freedom, anxiety. In modern conditions, most often ends either in being henpecked or the woman leaving later. Model 2, balance, moderate courtship, creates the illusion of fairness, but almost always leads to the same result as the first. After a few years, the woman burns out and leaves for emotions. Model 3. The woman herself needs you. The only model that allows building relationships where both people are happy for a long time and where the man does not lose himself. The most unpleasant and most honest thing. Switching from Model 1 or 2 to Model 3 abruptly is almost impossible. This is not changing a script. This is a complete restructuring of a man's personality. That's why for most people it's easier to live their whole life in the first or second model, periodically changing women, than to actually change themselves. But those who do go through this path usually say the same thing. I never even imagined that relationships could be so easy and mutual. Good luck to those who dare to try.